In the late winter hush, the sugaring shed glowed with a warm amber light. The drowsy maple tree leaned toward the stove, its trunk smooth and patient, its buds barely awake. The gentle syrup bucket rested beneath the spout, catching every soft drop of sap like a tiny liquid moon. The wise sugar shack stood in the center, a quiet lighthouse of wood and warmth. The air smelled of sweetness and rain-washed wood, of steam and cinnamon sugar promises. Outside, the world waited, still and silver. The maples were finished for the day, but this one tree felt especially tired, as if it had carried the sun on its branches and kept it safe through long weeks of cold. It sagged a little, its leaves curling in sleepy circles. The syrup bucket hummed with a gentle bloom of warmth, its metal surface smooth and cool to touch, then warm from the room's breath. The faint drip, drip, drip of sap sounded like a lullaby, steady and sure, inviting rest. The wise sugar shack spoke in a voice that sounded like a blanket being laid down. It taught that late winter is a time for quiet, a time to gather breath and ease the day into night. It invited the maple tree and the bucket and the room itself to listen to the soft sounds, the stove sighing, the steam fog curling toward the ceiling, the little clock ticking with a gentle, patient rhythm. Outside, stars stitched a quiet glitter across the velvet sky. Together, they began to slow. The sugar shack fetched a warm shawl, and with careful hands it draped it over the maple tree's broad branches, shading the trunk in soft, cozy light. It laid a thin quilt across the syrup bucket, so it could dream of sweetness without waking to roll of metal heat. The lamps released a gold halo that painted the walls with honeyed circles. The room breathed in and out, a calm, even rhythm. The drowsy tree let go of a small sigh, and the bucket settled into a gentle, even pulse. The sugaring shed felt like a cradle, a safe harbor for the night. A breeze slipped through a crack, bringing cool air that smelled faintly of maple and rain. The wind's whisper touched the window panes, and then the warm air melted the frost into soft, delicate lace. The sugar shack watched over them with a quiet, knowing smile. From the corner shelf, old jars winked in the amber light, as if they were stars nodding good night. The sap tubes hummed a soft lullaby, a slow, patient song that curled around the maple tree's dreams. The bucket's lid became a pillow. The wooden floor turned to a gentle sea beneath their rest. Outside, the night kept its even tempo, the snow listening, the cold listening, and everything listening for the moment when sleep would fall softly like snow. The trio discovered something gentle together. Rest could turn sweetness into more sweetness later. The tree's sap, resting, glowed with a quiet inner light, as if holding tiny sunbeams inside its bark. The bucket, relaxed and still, waited for new mornings with the patience of a friend. The sugar shack murmured a vow to protect the sleep, warm blankets, calm breaths, and a room that carried them to dreams with a soft, constant glow. Night deepened, and the shed became a small planet of warmth. The lantern's glow softened to a milky halo, and the walls glowed softly amber. The drowsy maple tree's branches drifted lower, easier and more comfortable, until they rested upon the quilt like a lullaby of knots and wood. The syrup bucket settled into a gentle pile of pillows, lid tilted, eyes closed in the glow. The sugar shack closed its heart a little, so the room could cradle them. One by one, the day's sounds quieted to a hush. The stove breathed a steady, warm breath. The crackle of a log rested. The drip of sap slowed to a velvet tick. The stars gathered closer to the window, and the gentle breeze lay down. The maple tree grew heavier with sleep, its limbs curling around the blanket. The bucket's shine grew softer, and the sugar shack's wooden ribs glowed with a softer, kinder light. The day faded into a gentle quiet, and the warm scent of maple settled over the room. The three friends felt the night wrap them in its velvet blanket, a patient, safe embrace. The sugar shack's door rested a moment longer, keeping out the cold and keeping in the calm. And they drifted, slow and gentle, into a deep, peaceful sleep.